Shortly after launching the first 5 chapters to Timecrest, we were contacted by a blind user who said our game was 99 accessible but had a few rough edges. I'll be honest, we hadn't focused on accessibility. But within 24 hours of that email, we had decided to stop everything we were doing and dedicate Timecrest to being 100% accessible. We spent the next 2 months rewriting Timecrest from the ground up, not just to be accessible, but to be delightfully accessible.
Welcome to Blind Abilities. I'm Jeff Thompson, and today in the studio with me is Jesse Anderson from Illegally Cited, the YouTube channel Illegally Cited. Jesse, how are you doing?
I am doing pretty good. It's a great year for accessible games this year.
Well, that's great because today we have Justin Ng, and he's from Sneaky Crab Incorporated, who has developed a game called Timecrest. Justin Ng, welcome to Blind Abilities.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're part of a 2-person team, Timecrest, Sneaky Crab. I love that name, Sneaky Crab. Where'd that name come from?
Yeah, so Sneaky Crab was a name I came up with my partner, Lisa Goose. We went through a lot of different names, and actually Lisa's nickname, we call her the Crab. And so we wanted something that would be fun and playful like our games. So we picked Sneaky Crab, and it just sort of set the right tone for the games that we made.
Yeah, I liked it. First time I saw that, I was like, wow, I like that name. That's kind of cute. You developed a game called Timecrest, but you both are sighted. Your team is sighted, and yet you're doing so much for the blindness community. How did that come about?
Yeah, I met Lisa when we were both working in mobile gaming startups, and we had been building mobile games since the early days of the App Store. She was a game director, and she was filled with creativity, and I was an engineering manager who was experienced with coding apps and games. At the time, we noticed mobile games were just really simple mechanics with flat themes, and we felt like they lacked depth and emotion. So we founded Sneaky Crab to solve this problem. We wanted to make games that would have a deep story with big twists and thrilling emotional punches. So we wrote Timecrest. It's a young adult fantasy story, and it's the first story we know of where you are truly the main character. You're not some avatar or some other person you're controlling. You're you. And that enables you to create a deeper feeling of connection and friendship with the characters in Timecrest that we think is unique to any other game. Shortly after launching the first 5 chapters to Timecrest, we were contacted by a blind user who said our game was 99 accessible but had a few rough edges. I'll be honest, we hadn't focused on accessibility. But within 24 hours of that email, we had decided to stop everything we were doing and dedicate Timecrest to being 100% accessible. We spent the next 2 months rewriting Timecrest from the ground up, not just to be accessible, but to be delightfully accessible. We learned how to use our phones with Screen Curtain. We learned how to use all of the apps with VoiceOver. This led to even many features in Timecrest that were exclusive to accessible users. We added a pronunciation mode. We added sound effects for navigation. It's what we really thought would make the game fun if you were using accessibility features. The response was incredible. People loved exploring the world and making new friends. And after 8 years of Timecrest, and we've had many, many major updates, we've built a really good audience of both sighted and blind people who are deeply invested in our game. And we have more people coming in every day.
Justin, that must have been a great feeling when the New York Times put you on the game's recommended apps list, as well as the App Store putting Timecrest on the list of highlighted apps.
Yeah, absolutely. That was really, really nice. When you quit your jobs and try to do something that nobody else has made, it was really scary for us. There were other games in this genre, but they were either really short stories or they were really linear. You kind of had choices to make in those games, but they just sort of killed you off if you made the wrong one. Or the games were just very abstract. We made a game that had over 640,000 words, but still made it deep and emotional. And it let you as the main character say whatever you wanted. We made it so you can get in and out and play if you only have a few minutes. So we were really blown away when we got recognition that this was something that people loved because...
And the blindness community giving you App of the Year on AppleVis. Plus, they put you into the Hall of Fame, showing that you guys have continued to advance this game and people are still using it.
Yeah, I think that all app developers should take this to realize the opportunity in front of them by making their apps, their products accessible. I think I saw a stat that said something like more than 240 million people in the world are blind or have low vision. So it's not a small number of people you're addressing when you put in the effort. We were absolutely delighted to get that recognition and hope it encourages more developers to do the same.
Well, let's dive into the game. And that's why Jesse Anderson from Illegally Cited is here with me, because he is the expert that joins us in the studio today. So
There's so many little aspects of the game that kind of interest me. It's really funny because I've had the game on my phone for quite a while, but just hadn't gotten around to playing it. And so I put a fair bit of time into it recently. And like I said, there's a few things that I think are really kind of neat about it. And one of the unique things about your game is that you have this time, it's like a real-time game mechanic. So you're not just playing, it's not like I've played a lot of choose your own adventure style text-based adventure games, and you just kind of keep playing and playing. But it's kind of interesting how, like you said, you can play it in short bursts, you interact with characters in the game, and then if there are times where they need to travel somewhere or they need to do something, like you actually have real time. Can you talk a little bit about how you decided to come up with that mechanic?
Absolutely, yeah. Where it all comes from is this desire to make the characters in the world feel as realistic as possible. Just like you text with your friends or you send emails to other people in your life. The people of Valencia, in fact, this main character, Ash, that you first meet at the very beginning, you're building a connection, talking to this person, really feeling like everything that is happening is happening. And so the time mechanic is trying to make it feel like real life actions take time. If Ash is going to try to solve a problem or work on something or travel to somewhere that takes, 10, 15 minutes to walk through, it will take some time in order for that to happen, right? Just like any other person in your life, if you're, helping someone fix a problem on their computer or something and you tell them to do this, it's not like they're instantly going to get it done. It's going to take them a little bit of time to get that done. That was a really important principle, to just have everything feel as realistic as possible. Along the lines of that principle, we wanted to make the choices in the story reflect what you might be thinking at the time. And so I don't know if you've ever read a story or watched a movie where you just wanted to yell at the character saying, "Why don't you do this? You're being so silly. Just do this. If you knew this one thing, everything would be okay." And so we tried as much as possible to let you say those things to the characters because we wanted you to feel like this was you. And that was part of the realism that we were going for. So sometimes you can say mean things to the character. Sometimes you can say nice things to the character. And the characters really respond to even not just what you're telling them to do or what you're saying to them, but how you say it. And they may remember many chapters later, they may remember 6 chapters later how you treated them and respond to you differently because of that.
And the other thing that I like about it too is that if you want to play the game in real time, you can. But especially, let's say you really get into the story and you've got some free time. And, this is a thing where if you want to support the developer, you do have a few different ways that you can support the game financially. And you can basically buy the currency things, or you can buy a pass to be like, I'm going to play in real time, let's say for a week, and just get through a lot of the story. So you're rewarding the impatient gamers like myself who are like, I want to see what happens next, but you're also supporting the game as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you made. We tie that back into the story of the game. One of the first things that you learn, which may be surprising to you, is that you are a time mage. You have the power to affect time in Ash's world. And when you first start joining the story, Ash is the young mage frantically contacting you through the pocket watch, saying that their world is about to be destroyed by falling meteors. And you demonstrate the ability to turn back time. One of the pieces of that is if you choose to purchase time crystals through purchases, you can also manipulate time and move the timer forward as it will. But you don't have to. This game is completely free, and it was important to us that this game is fully accessible by anyone without having to spend a single dollar, a single cent. So you can enjoy all of the content in the game for free, or if you want to get it all quicker and more intensely, we really appreciate if you support us in spending money, because we use that to build the next content and the next content and the next content.
Justin, I really like the fact that as soon as I opened up the game, it pops up a screen and tells me about the accessibility and lets me make a choice there to turn on pronunciation mode right away. And then it goes through a short little sequence and I turned back time and I saved Ash's life. Can you tell me a little about Ash? I'm already interested in who Ash is.
Ash is a young mage you learn very early on, 16 years old, and has recently been accepted to the Timecrest Guild. The Timecrest Guild is one of the most prestigious guilds in all of Valencia. Timecrest Guild is named in honor of Luther Timecrest. They gave him the title Kronos as well. Luther Timecrest was the one who originally saved the world from the meteors, froze meteors in the sky using time magic. And so this guild is in honor of Luther Timecrest. But the thing about Ash is that Ash is so happy to be a part of this guild, but Ash has this embarrassing secret. Ash has not learned a single spell yet. And so Ash quickly gets involved in a lot of things because you use time magic to save the world. And suddenly there's this somebody who is hunting Ash saying that the third rule of time has been broken. And so Ash already doesn't have any magic, but is your only connection into this world. And you two quickly start building up your relationship at the beginning of the story.
And I like the fact that you're also being able to play it on your phone or even on your watch. Again, if it's meant for short bursts of playtime, just being able to like, oh, hey, I got a notification from my friend, just go through the thing on either device. But can you also talk a little bit about, I noticed as I was playing, and you had already kind of alluded to it earlier, that if you're using VoiceOver, that there are kind of some unique features to the game for VoiceOver users. And one thing that I noticed specifically that I don't think I've ever really seen before is as you're swiping through the dialogue, the music, which is really good, by the way, it changes depending on like who's talking and the line of what's happening in the game. Can you talk about some of the unique voiceover features?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. All of the music in Timecrest was composed by Daryl Barnes, and the feature where you're talking about is called Music Follows Cursor. What's kind of cool is that voiceover users actually, I think, have a better experience than sighted users. The way that the game works for sighted users is the messages come in and the music matches the line that's coming in. But if you're reading a line that's above the line that has just come in, the music may not be matching because the music is matching sort of the last message that came in. But in VoiceOver, since we know the exact line that you're reading because of the VoiceOver cursor, we actually play the music to exactly match the line that you're reading. So you actually have a deeper experience because the music transition exactly at the moment that you're reading in the game.
That's fascinating. I really love that because I caught on to that pretty much right away and just really liked that attention to detail.
Yeah, I think that for us, accessibility isn't just adding some labels and making sure everything is describable by the cursor. I mean, that's important. That's the basics. But it was important to us to use Timecrest with Screen Curtain on, to use it with VoiceOver exclusively and get a real feel for the game. And a lot of the features that we came up with for VoiceOver users were because, what's annoying in the game, what's hard to use, what doesn't make sense. Another thing we added were little sound effects that indicated when new messages were coming. If your cursor was on the last message, if your cursor was on the first message, we added a bunch of different sound effects to give you a subtle sense of place in where you were in the dialogue. These sound effects don't occur if VoiceOver is off. If you're sighted, visually you can see when all of these things are happening. We continue to add a lot of features like that to just make sure the game was absolutely delightful with VoiceOver on.
That's a really cool thing. And I think also what really makes that helpful is the fact that, like you said, with those sound effects, it kind of offsets having to do so much with text to speech. If you want to kind of keep more immersion, you're like, okay, I want to hear the story via VoiceOver, but I don't have to be told necessarily start of line or end of text or something. You can just have a subtle audio cue that can just relay that and not really interrupt things. So that's a really nice idea.
I just really like how the audio follows cursor. I never thought about that. I remember, follow the bouncing ball when we were kids. So you used to read, sing along little songs and stuff like that. But I never thought about having the audio follow the cursor. So that's a great cue, especially for this community. And I'm really shocked that you went to this length, because in accessibility world, usually it's a second, third, fourth byproduct of the game that they're going to put a little bit of accessibility and they kind of tweak it to work a little bit. But I like that your team came from the ground up and you're doing such elaborate and new innovative things using VoiceOver and audio and the whole game itself.
I really appreciate that. And at this point, I'll also give a shout out to our community who daily gives us lots of feedback on how the game can be better, both in terms of the story, in terms of the plot, the characters, but also in terms of the accessibility. I'll give a shout out to Braille Bennett, is one of our beta readers and beta testers and has definitely filed a lot of accessibility issues for us. And that's been a huge source of fixing a lot of the problems and adding new features as well.
What's it like for you to have a thought bubble and bring it down to reality with inclusion in mind as a developer?
That's a great question. I don't really see it like that. I see it like when you build an app or a game, You want to make the best thing possible for the people who will experience it. That means if people are blind using this game, if people are sighted using this game, I want them all to have the best experience. I think that that's why awareness of accessibility is really important, because once you build that empathy, I feel like it's an obvious thing that you just need to do as you build your product.
Just out of curiosity, I know you guys are currently on iOS right now, but I'm wondering, I know there are users that are probably Android out there. And is this game available or going to be available for that platform in the future?
We'd love to be on Android. One of the hardest things about being entirely a two-person indie game company is that we have to be very, very, very thoughtful about what features we add, what platforms we're on, since they exponentially increase sort of the testing time and the feature time. We've made no announcements right now. It's something that I'd love to get to, but it's just been challenging. So I would say keep watching, see if we can find the time to do that. But I think we've been following our current audience and they've been demanding more content. So we've been focused on new content updates. But certainly, if you're listening to this and you want this on Android, please send us a note. Please contact us. We're listening and would love any feedback you all have.
One other thing that I was sort of curious about is I know like the game has been out for quite a while, but I know that like it's kind of had an interesting development where I'm not exactly sure how it worked, but like it sounds like, you know, you had Timecrest 1, 2, and 3, but it's actually all in the same game. So like, is it to where it's the same game as just like more content added, like you kind of folded that in? Can you talk a little bit about how that has progressed over time?
Yeah, we've had 3 major Timecrest updates. And so you can think of it almost like there are right now 15 chapters of the story released. And Timecrest 1 was the first 5 chapters, Timecrest 2 was the next 5 chapters, and Timecrest 3 was the last chapters 11 through 15. Each time we decided we wanted it to be a free update to the original app. That means that if you had played a game, you could continue that game. And it's not a separate story. And you play Timecrest 3, even if you played your Timecrest 1 playthrough a year ago, it'll still remember the choices that you made. The characters will still remember how they feel about you. And as you play through Timecrest 3 and continue the story, it has that memory. It has that continuity, which is why for us, it had to be an update to the same app so that it would remember all of those things.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm kind of glad that I came in a little later. That way I can have so much more content to enjoy.
Yeah, that's definitely when I'm watching a show or reading a book series or something. I always want to check first, all right, how much is out? Am I going to hit a cliffhanger right away? Or can I binge a bit of this and let the story get going?
Oh, that's the worst. I can't tell you how many books or how many series. I'm like, no, now I got to wait another year. I'm still waiting for the final season of Cobra Kai myself. I'm like, oh, I need to see this.
I'm waiting for the t-shirts to come out with Ash on there. And I know Ash, I believe Ash is not really described. It's more or less who I imagine Ash to be. Is that correct?
That's right. A lot of people ask, is Ash a boy or a girl? It's important to us that we made that purposely vague in the game, and we didn't draw a lot of attention to that because we wanted Ash to be a character that you connected with deeply. And so whatever your first imagination of what Ash was like, if Ash is a boy, if Ash is a girl, if Ash doesn't use pronouns, that's up to you, right? That's whatever came to your mind in the first place is who Ash is. Right. So there's no statement on who Ash is. It's molded to whatever your imagination is. And our goal, again, was to create a deeper connection with the character where you would eventually feel like Ash could be a best friend of yours.
I'd like to see the t-shirts show Ash, except just turned to a way that you can't make it out. Just almost there. Just almost there.
Yeah. In the Timecrest 1 splash screen art. And I think people, we always put accessibility descriptions on everything. So I think people have seen these descriptions. We have 2 silhouettes, 2 young mages. One looks like it could be a girl. One looks like it could be a boy. They're both facing different directions. It's up to interpretation what that means to you, but we put that there for you.
That's really cool. Where can people find the game?
Yeah, so go to timecrest.com or search for Timecrest in the App Store, Timecrest, and I'm pretty sure you'll find it.
What else do you got coming out down the line? You kind of alluded to you'd like to do some things, but is there anything coming out for next year?
Yeah, I think that this is the best time to get into Timecrest since we very recently launched a major rewrite to Timecrest 1. It added over 120,000 words, and we really polished up the story. People are still discussing and debating that story on social media, so I highly recommend you all get it in now while it's still fresh. We're hard at work at new accessible content, similar in vein to Timecrest, but we haven't made any specific announcements. So stay tuned to our social media, and I'm sure you'll find out what's next. But in the meantime, we've got some fresh content for you all to enjoy.
That's great.
I just want to congratulate you on the game and the updates and, of course, the accessibility. Like I said, just the way you've implemented the accessibility features, the way you've thought about approaching accessibility, just for whether somebody is fully sighted or totally blind or somewhere in between. I think that's a really cool thing. Yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing what you guys have up next.
Really appreciate it. And it's this kind of feedback really keeps us going and makes us want to keep going on this journey. It's really hard to do it as a small two-person team, but it's really people like you and the feedback we get from the community that really motivates us to keep doing this every day.
That's great. Now, Justin, I do have one more thing to say. You said you quit your jobs. I know by reading up about you, you worked at Microsoft, Google, other companies, major companies, and you went on this adventure.
Yeah, it's probably one of the hardest things I've done in my life. Now, having my daughter, that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And it continues to be. Beyond that, Timecrest has been a scary adventure. It's where me and Lisa decided we wanted to bet on ourselves and see what we could put out in the world. And we're really, really proud of what we've made. And we hope we can share it with as many people as possible.
Well, we'll try and get the awareness out there, and hopefully more people will share this game with each other and get involved with Ash and save some time for them.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Jesse, for coming on and helping out on this.
Sure. Glad to be here. Yep. It was fun. It was fun learning about the game, and yeah, I love it.
I'm looking forward to Jesse on Illegally Cited is going to do a run through, show how he navigates it, and maybe entice some people into downloading the app and give it a try themselves. So Justin Ng, thank you so much for coming on to Blind Abilities and sharing with us all about Timecrest and Sneaky Crab.
Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed the conversation. It's been really fun, and thanks for having me.
For more podcasts with the blindness perspective, check us out on the web at www.blindabilities.com, on Twitter at blindabilities, and download the free Blind Abilities app from the App Store and Google Play Store. That's 2 words, Blind Abilities. And if you want to leave some feedback, give us some suggestions, give us a call at 612-367-6093. We'd love to hear from you. I want to thank you for listening, and until next time, bye-bye.
When we share
what we see through
each other's eyes, we can then begin to bridge the gap
between the limited expectations and the reality
of blind abilities.